Hi, my name is Sarah Salinas. Today I'm going to be discussing the topic that I chose to speak on, which is police brutality. I chose to speak on police brutality because I feel like not a lot of people are willing to speak up about this. So I felt, and because of how popular it is right now, the topic, so I chose to speak about it. So here I go. Police brutality or excessive use of force by law enforcement can be legally defined as a civil rights violation where law enforcement officers exercise undue or excessive force against a subject. I found this definition on Wikipedia/wiki/police brutality. This may include but is not limited to physical or verbal harassment, physical or mental injury, property damage, and even death. In some countries, it's told to be said that the color of law protects officers from ambiguous situations. What's the problem in this? Police brutality has always been a huge problem in the United States. Every day, innocent people's lives are being lost in the most unreasonable, disgusting ways. Rayshard Brooks, 27 years old, died this year, 2020. He fell asleep in his car, blocking the drive-through of a fast food restaurant. Police arrived and tried to communicate with him for about 40 minutes. After the 40 minutes, police told him that they were gonna go ahead and restrain him, and he took off running. When he took off running, police then shot him two times in the back, and he passed away. I found this information at interactive.aljazeera.com. Another act of police brutality is with George Floyd. As many of you guys know, he was 46 years old. He died this year in 2020. George was allegedly trying to use a counterfeit $20 bill, which a lot of people believe this is not true. George was handcuffed on the ground, and Officer Derek then put his knee and knelt onto George Floyd's neck. He was on George Floyd's neck for around, it says, 8 minutes and 46 seconds. George then pled while not one but four other officers were around, and George said, "I can't breathe." He repeatedly continued to say, "I can't breathe." And while all these other officers were around, they did not do one thing to stop it. They just watched while Officer Derek continued to kneel on him and not get off him. Officer Derek then noticed that George became unresponsive, and Officer Derek continued to put his knee on George, knowing that he was unresponsive. 2 autopsies rule George's death as a homicide, but others say that there's too many other reasons. But although they gave different causes. Who's affected by this? Because of all the deaths happening this year, a lot of people are becoming scared of police. They don't want to leave their houses. They feel that if they leave their house, that they're putting themselves in danger or in jeopardy of getting pulled over by a cop. A lot of black people are scared to leave and get pulled over. There's videos all over the internet of people getting pulled over, and they automatically pull out their cameras and start recording because they're just so scared of being killed by police officers. And I feel like that is so sad. People should not have to feel like they're going to get killed, like that's just so sad to have to say. Today I really thought I was gonna get killed by a police officer, and there's just so many reasons I feel like this just shouldn't even be happening. It's just ridiculous. Because of all these deaths happening, millions of Americans are fearing for their lives, scared to go outside in their houses in fear of being pulled over and killed by officers. Officers are supposed to be the people we call when we are in help, when we need help, when we are scared. We're supposed to call the police. The police should not be causing harm. Who are we supposed to call when police are the ones causing the harm? If you call a police to your house and they're the ones who start to shoot guns, who start to hurt your family, who are you gonna call after that? Those are the people you're supposed to call. You can't do anything. I just feel like how police are the ones causing the harm and violence, and they're supposed to be protecting us. They're supposed to be our heroes. I don't get it. The consequences, how are people dealing with this? People protested in Minneapolis after George Floyd's death, and it quickly escalated from a peaceful protest to something just people, I feel like they didn't think this would ever happen, but how it's out of how mad people are that they're doing this. They're not doing it for any reason. It turned into a huge looting fest. People were breaking in small and big businesses. They were breaking windows. They were burning buildings down, all out of anger because they are in fear. They don't want this happening anymore. People completely destroyed stores that could never come back, could never be in the same location because the buildings are gone. They have to relocate. They don't have enough money to rebuild these things, and that just shows you how bad, how mad people were to have to do this to somebody's business, that people were willing to destroy people's businesses that they had been working their whole lives for. If that doesn't show y'all how mad these people are, I mean, you have to be mad to be willing to destroy someone's business that you have no idea how much work and effort they put into it. Demonstrators were lashed by tear gas that day. They were shot with rubber bullets. But the whole main message in this, they weren't doing it for no reason. The message is that they wanted to see these officers arrested. And also with all these other deaths, people also protested. The point was that they wanted to make sure that these officers were arrested. How does this help fix humanity? It took a lot of fighting, protesting, retweeting, but after speaking on all these past deaths done by police officers, the police were put behind bars. George Floyd's officers every single one of them were charged for second-degree murder. With Rashad, the officers involved were put as a felony murder. Charges included aggravated assault. But that just kind of shows the difference, and how big publicity could get. The police charged because with George Floyd, I feel like people all over the world know about this. Just realize that how much publicity these things are getting. It just kind of is weird how one officer got charged second-degree murder while the other one, I guess since his death wasn't as popular or didn't get as much publicity as George Floyd's, how they just kind of like, oh, he's gonna get aggravated assault, oh, he's gonna get charged with a felony, but these other officers were charged with second-degree murder. I feel like murder is murder. They should all get it, That's just personally me. After the police got charged, it has brought justice to the friends and family, but at the end of the day, bringing justice to the families and making everyone feel safe and letting them know that the police are off the streets, the police are in jail, it doesn't really just stop there, because these police, yeah, they're put in jail, but after a few weeks or even years, I'm sure another death like this will come, and it won't stop until the community comes together and just puts a stop to all this crime. Unless people come together as a community and put a stop to the crime, we have to stop letting police officers slide with simply because they're supposed to be our help system. They're supposed to be the people we call when we're in need, and that's why people have such strong respect for them because they feel like they're our heroes. But the truth is, whether it's them being racist or them giving you a ticket for something you feel that you shouldn't do, you should be fighting against them for literally every single thing they do if you feel that it is not right. Everyone should suffer the consequences equally. Just because you're an officer, how come when you're not wearing your uniform you don't get the same? If you notice that if the officers, they're not wearing their uniform, they don't get the same respect. And you know why? Because everyone gets treated equally. I believe this will not change until everyone else changes and sees the wrongdoing. Some ways of making sure police brutality comes to a stop is: number one, tracking the problem. This means keeping an accurate database in police departments, cities, and states. A lot of police departments are not forthcoming with the information. Another way of putting a stop to this is demilitarizing the police. The police for decades have been getting fundings from all types of places, but the fundings go to unreasonable weapons that police simply just should not have access to. For example, they have access to grenade launchers, which I just feel is ridiculous. They do not need grenades or grenade launchers, bayonets. And when putting these kind of weapons in police's hands, you're just bound for something horrible to happen. There's a bunch of policies that that can be pushed into police systems. Every year they're required to pick up at least 8 requirements of these policies, and they include requiring officers to de-escalate before using force. Number 2, using guidelines defining. Remember, these are policies that they're required to pick up coming forward. Using guidelines defining the types of force that can be used to respond to specific situations. Number 3, restricting or banning chokeholds and strangleholds. Number 4, requiring verbal warning before using deadly force. Number 5, prohibiting officers from shooting at moving vehicles except in extreme circumstances. Number 6, requiring officers to exhaust other options before resorting in deadly force. Number 7, establishing a duty by officers to interfere if one of the colleagues is using excessive force. Number 8, requiring officers to report all uses of force or even attempted force. Police brutality will not stop and will never be okay until we put a stop to this. We will not stop fighting for justice until justice is met.